I'm going to officially call this meeting to order at 7:04. If you please stand and do the pledge.
Allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Sorry about the late start. We were just waiting to see if two other members would show up, but we have a quorum, so we'll get rolling. We'd like to open with comments from the general public. Seeing nobody jumping to the mic, we can move on to comments from the APC.
How's everybody doing? I'll be brief tonight. Seems like summer flew by. It was fast, and here we are again. I just want to say thank you to Scott and Carver Public Schools to inviting us to the new teacher mentoring meeting. That was great. Great for us. I know my office manager was extremely happy we were able to get everything out, and so we really do appreciate that offer every year. And I guess we'll start off next week, and let's have a great school year.
Sounds good. I concur. No student advisory either here?
No student advisory for August.
Wouldn't
Be
think
back in
so.
September.
Yeah. So then we move on to approval of minutes. So if everybody's had a chance to look, I would accept the motion.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes for the June 12th regular session minutes, the June 12th executive session minutes, and the June 29th joint meeting minutes.
Second.
So any questions or comments? All those in favor accepting?
Aye.
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 Excellent. Moving on, communications from the superintendent.
Nothing specific, so we'll move into reports in terms of
The reports.
personnel. And,
Yeah.
So as always in the summer, there's been some personnel movements, but actually less than we've had in past summers, as a point of comparison. So I'm actually going to start with resignation retirements first, and then come up and talk about the teachers and support staff that we've hired. So Caroline Cartmill, who was assistant ABA, has resigned her position. She's got a full-time position in another district as a behavioral assistant, and as a behavioral specialist instead of a behavioral assistant. Her position with us was an assistant. Now she has a full-time specialist position, so that's great for Caroline.
Great for her.
Julie Dorr was a middle high school foreign language teacher, has accepted a position in a closer district. Elizabeth Farmer, pre-K para. Amy Folsom, a food service worker. Susan Callio Vincent, a pre-K para. Andrea Kane, a third grade teacher. Jane McNamara from food services. Bethany Olgazali, a third grade teacher. Joan Simmons has retired as the middle high school assistant, administrative assistant. Joan had been with the district, I believe, Amy may correct me, definitely since the early 70s. Maybe, Tammy, do you know the actual year? I know it's the early 70s. She had been with the district for over 40 years, tremendous service, and she just made a decision over the summer to retire. And we had a recent retirement from Elizabeth Stein, a speech and language pathologist. Based on these retirements, the only teaching position we have currently open is the middle high school foreign language teacher position. Julie Dorr just resigned her position last week officially. So we're in the process of attempting to fill that position. Hopefully we have some good candidates, and we're looking to probably fill that position next week. So we should begin the school year with all of our teaching staff in place. In terms of teachers that we've hired a science teacher at the middle high school, Caitlin Bryan. A special education part-time teacher, Mimi Burns, who also had already worked for the district as a paraprofessional. Sarah Charbonneau is a new middle high school adjustment counselor part-time in our new special ed program, this social emotional program that we developed that we had talked about last year. Stephanie King is a new sped teacher at Carver Elementary School, replacing Pam Copeland's retirement. And Joyce McCreener is a new grade 3 teacher at the elementary school. She's replacing Bethany Olgazali, who had resigned over the summer. And in terms of support staff, we've hired Catherine DeCross as a pre-K Kara. Ashley Doyle is the new middle high school administrative assistant. Michael Doyle, middle high school special education para. Anthony Fullmine is a full-time middle high school special ed para. Anthony came in with us part-time during the year last year, but now we've hired him back full-time this year. Michelle Nickerson is the new middle high school administrative assistant replacing Joni Simmons, as we just talked about her retirement. Wendy Pasolini is a new bus driver, and Jennifer Rosano as a new food service worker. So that's been our movement over the summer in terms of staff. And as I said, the only vacant teaching position we have right now is the French teacher at the middle high school. But we hope to, as I said, we had some good candidates in that position. It's actually, I believe, being offered to someone this evening. And if they accept the position, we'll be moving forward and have that filled next year.
Was there a movement in third grade? Because there's two that left.
Okay,
and-
so to explain the third grade moves, so Katie Lyman was moved to third grade. And so what happened was, we have one last fifth grade teacher, if you remember from our reductions from last year. So we have 6 teachers each grade level. There's 5 in grade 5. A grade 5 teacher was not eliminated. Okay, so what happened actually in terms of real movement is Andrea Kane resigned. So in essence, no one lost their position. Katie Lyman moved to third grade to replace Andrea Kane. So then at that time we had 6 third grade teachers and now 5 fifth grade teachers.
Okay.
Then Bethany Olgazali, after school ended, Andrea Kane actually resigned before the end of school. So we got her letter after school committee, but before the last day of school. And Katie Lyman we knew was going into that third grade position prior to the end of school. Then Bethany actually resigned over the summer. And then we hired Joyce Macrina to replace the third grade position. So that's how that movement worked out. So there's still 6 teachers in each grade level with 5 teachers in grade 5. But in terms of reductions, no fifth grade teacher actually lost their position. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah, and I think I heard somebody say something about, hiring people when we went through what we just went through. But these are replacements for things.
So the teachers we've hired are replacements for teachers who either left or resigned from the district or were non-renewals. So there's a couple of the teachers we've hired there. Special ed teacher was a replacement for Stephanie King, was a replacement for Pam Copeland. Carrie Ann Beckman was a middle high school science teacher who left to take a position, went home to Pennsylvania, and I believe has received the position in Pennsylvania. So Caitlin Bryan was hired to replace her. So yes, there was movement based on people leaving the district.
And the new additions were brought in based on the new program from tuition savings out of district. That was how the new
Yeah,
program-
which we talked about last year. So Sarah Charbonneau, the middle high school adjustment counselor, that position was brought in under the new,
Yeah.
that we had talked about that last year. We were reorganizing from bringing some out of district placements back. So there's no, in terms of overall change, there's no change in teaching staff. It's not like we changed from what our reductions were from last year, if that makes sense. So no positions have come back, no additional positions have been eliminated. This is all just general movement of staff over the summer.
Now will the new hires be coming to the meeting?
So yes, we're gonna invite the new hires, as we traditionally have, I think, the last few years, to attend the September meeting. So we'll have them all here and introduce them officially at our September school committee meeting. Yep. Anything else on personnel?
No, just please notify us if we're doing anything for Joni.
Yeah. So they actually, they did. I heard they did a little impromptu retirement party for her a couple weeks ago.
Okay.
And so just kind of some staff got together and organized it, and they had a get together. And I actually saw Joni today. Joni's coming back and giving a little transition support because we do have 2 new people in the middle high school office. So actually, Joni Simmons and Pat Calderoni came back today as well, just to provide some assistance in that transition in terms of the opening of school. So I spoke with Joni today, and she was delighted with the impromptu retirement party they put together for her. But yeah, if something official comes up, that someone decides to do an official retirement party, for surely we'll let you know.
All right, excellent. Now moving on to something that I think is pretty exciting, and it's going to build up this year as the year goes along. Walter,
Yep. So we'd like to
PMA.
introduce Walter Hartley from PMA, our project managers, who's going to give us a little more detailed monthly school building report based on the reports that PMA creates that are on the website on a regular basis. So Walter's going to go through the July report and take us through it, and then we can ask him some questions. I think you all have it linked in Drive, and I think, Meredith, if you could pull the link up, that would be great.
All All right, so this is for the month of July. Status update for the construction project over at the elementary school. On budget, we actually locked in with the MSBA our PFA bid amendment, which is basically their funding agreement. So that total project budget number of 51.9 is actually 48.35 million. So we've had some great bid savings that we were able to recognize with the MSBA on the bidding of the project that has just become finalized. Other numbers that are pretty good to look at right now are contingency. Right now, we're only about 10% expended of contingency, and that's through almost 40% of construction. It's a really good number to see. Yeah. Other unknowns that we might see are in demolition when those other two buildings come down. Those are just stuff we can't forecast right now, but we're always tracking against those.
And in terms of unknowns, obviously, and some unknowns are always unknown. But in terms of what things you're projecting out of where we might have cost overruns, we feel like we have a pretty good handle on that. And
Yeah,
project as a whole.
Yeah, no cost overruns, just potential construction issues that do come up, moisture in the slab that we have to take care of, you mitigate it, potential costs there, but we haven't tested for anything yet because you can't test for that until the building's fully closed in, so.
What was the due date for that, Walter? Wasn't there a set date for it to be totally enclosed?
Yeah, we were kind of tracking that based off of a roof item that they had. So their schedule had building enclosed by the end of August, and the roof is going to be tight by the end of August. It's almost tight now.
And I think at our last meeting we had talked about where the A building was going to be
yeah,
tight. So they had there was a date on there that said it was July. Was it June 17th or July 7th?
July. Yeah, the middle of July.
Saying that the A building would be tight.
Yep. So A building is the farthest north.
Yeah.
And I think if you guys have driven by, you've seen the windows going in over there. They're just about done. They're temping in some of the cafeteria curtain walls right in the front. That started today. The music room windows are going in. So really, A building has been buttoned up. One of the big activities that happened last week was paving. I don't know if anyone drove by, but the entire loop road around the back of the building has been, a binder course has been put down. We've regraded into the existing lot so that there is no drop-off or pickup issue with the staff. There's some more grading at the back of the building that we're going to be working on this week so that when everyone does finally get back, there is no issue. We have sufficient parking, and so those have been the big things. We've got almost all of our utilities into the building. We have a cable pole that we got put in at the front of the building. We've been working with Carver Fire. Recently, we've met with them 2 weeks ago to go over. We've walked through the building for about 2.5 hours to make sure they're seeing everything that's going in the walls and watching the building progress. And they had a couple tidbits for us that we need to make sure we keep an eye on. So we got them the information they needed. They got it back over to us, so we're good to go with them. The next big things we need to get done are drywall, and drywall started in A building, and that's almost complete in the classroom wings now. So they do look like classrooms now. In the next update, you'll probably see some better pictures. Sorry, I'm kind of skipping all over the place. Let's see.
There was some discussion at one of our meetings about a change order for the drywall, like John wanted to do that, a different board on the bottom.
That was actually decided against because what was kind of lost between everyone talking, even between us and everybody, was that there are 2 layers of drywall. So, and the other good thing to mention there is we have acoustics testing that is a requirement on this project. So there's testing between classroom to classroom for ambient noise. There's testing from classroom to hallway for ambient noise. They're also testing all the HVAC units while those are running after. So we had a walkthrough, an early meeting walkthrough with an acoustics engineer out here to make sure we were going to be able to hit the numbers that are required. It's part of the CHIPS program, which is the New England Collaborative for High Performing Schools, which is a program that we are required to hit to get the 2 reimbursement points from MSBA. So we are doing everything to make sure we hit those. Let's see. We've had our third-party commissioning agent out. We had a few pre-construction meetings with him for different construction items, including automatic temperature controls, exterior facade, and the mock-up. So he's been looking at window testing. We've been working on AVB, which is air vapor barrier, making sure nothing's getting into the building. So that's the blue skin that you see on the building before all the insulation's going up or before the masonry's going up. We're trending under budget right now, and well within what was budgeted for the project. So I guess I'll turn it over to you guys for questions, because I bet you have some that I haven't answered yet.
Stephanie? Hey, Gina. How you doing? Any questions for Walter?
None
Walter,
at this time.
What's the HVAC, the rooftops, that starts in January?
HVAC rooftop ABC startups.
Yeah.
Yeah, so what we're going to be doing over the next couple months is, once the building is tight, we actually have penetrations in the roof that are created, and the rooftops, there'll be a crane on site, and they'll rig them up to the roof, set them, and then they're going to pipe up to them. So they'll pipe the gas to them, they'll pipe the power to them, they'll pipe the ductwork down from them. That's going to feed all of the air that goes to all the classrooms. So that'll be,
Is that obviously weather dependent, right?
you can do it whenever.
Really?
Yep, they're temped in right now. The openings are temped in. So they what they do is they take the roof membrane and they wrap it over so that nothing's getting into any areas that it can't get into. Yep, so those, we're kind of looking at a startup date in January for those, and that would be all of those units. Typically, they like to run them to get heat into the building, as opposed to bringing some type of heater, another unit heater into the building. It's a lot easier.
That makes sense.
Yep.
Stephanie?
No, I'm all set. Thank you.
Me too, Walter. I think it's looking fantastic. It's nice to see. I do have a question. Is there any estimation on when our next building committee meeting is, or?
Yep, so we discussed that. Scott has been at our weekly meetings over at the construction site, and that was brought up last week on Thursday. And I think a lot of it had to do with the naming of the school. And I think what Scott said was that the school committee is required to come up with potential names.
It's on our agenda.
Yeah, so it's on our agenda
on
for later
there
tonight.
later
We're gonna
on.
look
So-
at that. And so our thought would be that we were talking about having a school building committee meeting the end of September, beginning of October.
Okay.
Uh,
Because
So-
the only other thing I think we left was trying to figure out, sort of community-wise, what we're gonna do with the old building and how we're gonna address sort of the farewell and the deconstruction and the changes that are gonna occur there, and try to get some community input on what they'd like to see happen with some of that too.
Yep.
So I think that's something we could probably,
Absolutely. Then
Address
we'll
it
put
the
that on the
next one,
agenda
yeah.
for the September meeting.
For the building committee, yeah, absolutely.
I know there was a subcommittee I was gonna talk about,
Yeah.
who, remember the names that were,
Yeah.
I think Heather was thrown in there, she's never there, so.
And, otherwise, as you tour through the building, ultimately, Walter said it best when he said it's starting to look like a real school. So as you walk through the building and see the walls going up inside and seeing you can really see the spaces coming alive. You can see the gathering areas coming alive. You can see the project areas coming alive. It's good. Things are moving along well.
Yeah, no, we no longer need ladders. We have staircases, so
The
it's a lot
stairwell.
easier to walk around on site now.
I'm really interested to see how the gymnasium's gonna turn out and how that whole area is.
You can kind of see the shape of it now
Yeah.
with that curved
Yeah,
structure
it's
on
going
it,
to,
and the
yeah.
block below, and the
Yeah.
block all around the building. But yeah, it's going to be good. I was talking to Scott earlier. We've seen some samples of the zinc, and the color of it looks,
Pretty cool.
yeah.
And then just some things on the site. The existing Dave's storage shed came down, so that's been demolished. We had a portable on the back of the back building, and that came down. So there's just a lot of things going on. It's amazing to see week to week the amount of progress that's being made and how well the project's been going.
And that's what I was saying. I think this year is gonna be a really interesting year, because it's just gonna really shape into what you expect it to be this year, so looking forward to it. Thank you very much, Walter.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, thank you.
And the only thing I'd want to remind people is that these reports are available on a monthly basis on the school website. And I also think the town's website as well. So if you go to carver.org or the town of Carver website, these building reports are available there, and you can track the progress month by month as you go along if you want to do that at home.
The reports are on there. The aerial photographs, I'm not sure who put those up, but those are great. And if they want to do the flyover, I think someone used the drone and took pictures, and those are cool. And then we'll also have,
That was actually Mike Shaw who did that.
we'll actually have Scott had requested, so I think we were going to do it for the end of August, was another time-lapse video. We have a time-lapse video on the website. I don't know if anyone's seen it yet, but
I'd love to have that time-lapse video for opening day next week,
for opening day next week.
next Monday.
All right.
If I could, it's kind of partly in my presentation for Monday.
Okay. You got it. It'll be up on the website by then.
Beautiful.
Thank you again, Walter,
Yeah, thanks,
very
Walter.
much.
Yep.
Thank
No
you.
problem.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, Walter.
So now moving to the other nice-looking project in the
Yeah.
town.
Our other project, the accelerated repair project. That project is a bit behind schedule, and we're not going to be completed prior to the opening of school. The project is behind really for two reasons. First, there were two window types that are not going to arrive on site until September 11th. And that was a fear really throughout the project. We really tried to get ahead of the game and start that project early enough to order the windows early enough to have them done, to have them be on site. And ultimately people said to us, a lot of times you don't get the windows don't get done because ultimately in terms of school windows and school projects, everyone wants to do their windows during the summer. And even though we thought we had started really ahead of the game and we were going to get those windows there on time, there are two window types that are not going to arrive until September 11th. So obviously they can't install them prior to September 11th. Though the majority of the windows in the building have been replaced. And I'm going to go through a list of what's not going to be done on the first day of school, so I'll mention that again. The second reason is we found an unforeseen condition along the metal paneling that needed to be remediated. And this problem delayed both the progress on the roof, painting of the metal paneling. And what that is, I don't know if people realize, so if you look at the middle high school, it's a brick structure, but there's also areas of the building that have metal paneling. It's that beige section, which I don't even know if people realize was metal paneling. And what was discovered after the roof went down was that we were actually getting leaks along the metal paneling. And then the leak from the metal paneling was going under the roof, even though we had a new roof down. And it was because there was some deterioration along the base of the metal paneling. And that condition was consistent throughout wherever metal paneling was in the building. So that delayed us a little bit because we had to look at what can we do to remediate this problem, because obviously we don't want water coming off the metal paneling and going under the new roof. So there was the engineers were involved, the architects were involved in terms of saying what can we do to solve this problem short of replacing all the metal paneling. I mean, there was actually a point of discussion of we might have to replace all the metal paneling, which would have been an interesting discussion to see what steps we would have to take to do that. But they came up with a solution in terms of, in essence, the engineers and the architects designed a flashing system to put some flashing between the metal paneling and the roof. But that had to be installed all along the roof line, all along the metal paneling. And so that was an unexpected delay for an unforeseen condition. The condition wasn't even recognized until they were up there roofing next to the metal paneling. So that just slowed down the whole process in essence. So those are kind of the two big factors that led us to not be completed by next Monday. Because ultimately our goal for this project is we wanted that project to be done prior to school starting.
Sounds like a relatively cost-effective solution, though.
Yes, so it was a cost-effective solution. So in terms of so that's an important piece to point out. In terms of on this project, now I'm saying we're not really on time because our goal was to be done prior to the first day of school. We're still under budget. That's going to fall within the contingency. I don't want to be quoted on the exact number, Kathy, but I believe that change was around $40,000, which is a significant amount of money, but a lot less than replacing the metal paneling. So to flash all the metal paneling on the roof line ended up being a change order around $40,000 $40,000 to do that. But that stays within our contingency within that budget. It's not going to take us over budget. We're going to still be where we need to be on that project. So based on that, what's not going to be done when students return on next Tuesday, August 29th? The roof. The majority of the roof will be completed. During the first week of school, if they still need to be roofing, they're going to work over the middle school gym. The worst case scenario is that all roofing will be completed by September 1st. This work will be completed during the school day. Now, there's actually a window for them to finish next Monday if it doesn't rain. So if there's no rain between now and next Monday, they will finish on Monday. But looking at the forecast, it looks like Wednesday's going to rain. So that's probably going to take us into Tuesday. And if there's another day of rain, that would take us into Wednesday. They're very confident that all the roofing will be done by next Friday, a week from Friday, September 1st. But if it doesn't rain, they could be done next Monday, the day before students return. Roof edge metal. This is the edge of the roof that connects the roof with the brick sidewalls. In essence, it's the strapping that goes along the roof. You know, if you go look at the building right now, you still see all the white flap hanging down. The edging goes along, makes the white flap disappear. This work will be completed during the school day. The goal is it's going to be completed by the first week of September. The same thing, the shooting is for September 1st, maybe that next week, September 7th. And again, both those delays are based on the metal paneling and that delay in terms of the whole roof process. Replacement of doors and storefronts. The other hardware piece we were not able to get was the hardware for the doors. We have the doors. All the doors have been replaced. We don't have the hardware that goes with the doors. The hardware is being delivered on September 7th. So installation of doors will take place after hours and on weekends and should be completed by September 30th. So all the doors, obviously we're not going to be doing doors during the school day. So the door work will be done after school hours and on weekends. There's not a lot of doors to install. They're hoping they can do a couple doors a day. You know, they would begin after 3 in the afternoon and get a couple doors done, and then next day do a couple more doors. And that also, the storefront, I mean like the front entryways. So those front entryways are also being replaced, and those will clearly be done after hours or on weekends. We're not going to remove the front entryway. Obviously, I'm going to push for the front entryways to be done on a Saturday, to have one at the middle high school main entrance on a Saturday, then one by the current athletic office done on a Saturday. Windows. The majority of windows have been replaced. As I said, there's several window types in the buildings. 2 of the window types were unable to be procured and delivered over the summer. The windows that are not done are the windows on metal paneling. So we've had a lot of discussion about metal paneling tonight. So if you have metal paneling and a window in metal paneling, that window type is not in, but it'll be delivered on September 11th. The other type is the windows in the middle school gym are a different type of window, and those also have not been delivered. So the windows that aren't done are the middle school gym, and those haven't even been taken out because the middle school gym windows are huge. Those will be a larger project. They'll take one out, put one in. They're not going to board those up because you'll see if you go to the building, there's windows that are boarded up. They're not going to be boarding those up. It's going to pop one out. Well, it's not going to really be pop. It's going to be remove one, put one in. That will be one day's work. This affects 9 classrooms. So there are 9 classrooms in the building that have metal paneling walls. So in essence, their windows aren't in yet. In those 9 classrooms, there's going to be temporary windows put in. The temporary windows are small. They're not full-size windows, and they actually just get framed within the plywood that they've put up in the covering in the hole. Those temporary windows have been installed, and obviously, for those 9 classrooms, the goal is to get the classrooms done first. So in their order of the priorities, when the windows arrive on September 11th, we'll be doing classrooms. And don't know exactly how many they'll be able to do each day, but they'll start in the classroom sections first. Then the library. The other section is the library. That's where the metal paneling is as well. But we'll do classrooms, then the library windows. And as I said, both window types are scheduled to be delivered on September 13th. And the windows will definitely obviously be installed after school hours and on weekends. We're not going to be putting any windows in during the school day. Painting. We actually initiated a change order to paint the metal paneling. Again, we're on the metal. The metal paneling has been a huge discussion of this project. So the metal paneling was beige. It was faded. It's never been painted since the building was opened. And we thought while we're doing this work, while we're replacing the windows and the doors and the roof, and they're working on the metal paneling, and they're taking windows out of the metal paneling and putting windows in. It made sense to give that a new, fresh look. We are painting the exterior. They've actually started that today. They put the first coat out front today, so you may have noticed that it's a different color. It's going to be white. If you go by the building, all the metal paneling is going to be completed in white. Their projection was that the painting of the metal paneling would not be done until September 5th, but they said to me today, there's a chance they'll be done by Monday. So I'm saying it here, September 5th, that's their official date. They weren't exactly sure when they were going to get going, but they started today. They did the whole front today. It needs several coats. It's not going to be covered in one coat. But there's a chance that may actually be complete. So I'm listing it as not being done prior to the start of school. There's a chance that the painting of the metal paneling will be done before school starts. They will paint during the school day. It's not a noise factor. It's the large area of it is over the library. There are 9 classroom spaces that have metal paneling. It would be a distraction from the point of there's going to be guys standing outside the wall painting. But if you remember, in the metal paneling, they also don't have windows. So they have temporary windows, so they won't see they'll see very small figures of those guys because they have paneling. But hopefully they'll be done at that point, because obviously you're not going to have painters arrive at 3 o'clock. It's easy after school hours. It's easy to put in a couple windows, or in the gym, take a window out, put a window in. It doesn't make sense for the painters to arrive on the site at 3 o'clock, what they would get done on a daily basis. So the goal would be that they will paint during the school day, but hopefully there's a chance they'll be done before school starts. And then the last piece is actually also an owner-initiated change. We said, while we're painting the metal paneling, why don't we put new signage on the building? So it used to say, on the metal paneling above the planetarium, it said Carver High School in big cranberry letters. So we've taken that signage down, and they're painting the metal paneling, and they put new signs up. It's going to say CMHS, and it's going to have the Crusader logo. And that's going to be on the highest elevation of the metal paneling. And that's going to be in cranberry, and it's going to match the door. The storefronts are going to be in cranberry. So the entranceways will be in cranberry. The signage on the building will be in cranberry. And then this also includes the signs above the entrance. The entrance will now say Carver Middle High School, and that will be in cranberry. And they redid the entry fronts. They replastered those. So they're expecting that will all be done by September 30th. So what we're looking at right now is we're hoping totality completion of the project is September 30th. And if you come the first week in October, you'll see all the windows in. You'll see the roof will be done. The boiler system is up and ready. That's going to be ready to run. They won't start the boiler. They have to commission it, but that wasn't planned to happen until September anyhow, because we don't run the boilers till after October 15th unless it's really cold. So the planned startup date for the boilers was October 15th anyhow. So that will be ongoing, and have a little bit of a new look by October 1st. In terms of the totality of the project, really, to put a number on it, I know that through their project, through the new elementary school, they're saying we're 40 some odd percent complete, 48% complete. I would say this project's really 90% complete, but 10% of the work is still going to continue. And I just wanted to make sure tonight that I gave an update in terms of where we are in terms of that project, and have people realize that there is going to be some work happening during the school day. But the majority of it will happen after school hours and on weekends. So, Brad, you've been attending all those meetings, so Brad's been an active participant in the middle high school project. Did I miss any pieces?
No, the only thing, the metal paneling, the original estimate was about $50,000. I know you said 40.
Yeah.
It was based on time and materials that are estimated right now to come in at 45,000.
So you got that nice.
Yep. And the one thing too is a lot of our crews have been working on Saturdays as well, so that helped the project out long term in terms of shortening down the overall.
Yeah.
time.
So the goal since August, they've known it was going to be tight and they may not make it. So they've said, if we can work on Saturday, we're going to work on Saturday. Unfortunately, the roof, I think a couple Saturdays rained, so that didn't help the roofers, because the roofers they can't tear if it's going to rain. So they can't remove roof. So they only remove what they can. They only remove what they can replace in that day. And if it's going to rain, they don't roof. So hopefully we'll be okay with that. Any questions in terms of where we are in the middle high school project?
Just for the first month or so, how will that affect parking for the kids?
It should not affect parking for the kids. So right now, if you go to the building, it's a very good point. If you go to the building, things are kind of all over the place. But we, at our building meeting for that project last week, we made it very clear that by Monday, we want everything consolidated. And we've asked them to consolidate things over in the back corner of the auditorium, which is really now kind of staff, visitor parking. And they still may have a small section over behind the boys' locker room. So that would affect some student parking in that area. But our goal is to try to consolidate as much as possible. The biggest thing that's laying out there right now is roofing material. Once the roof is done, that's all going to be gone, obviously, because they're going to have used it. So hopefully they still have 2 big sections of roof to do, the auditorium and the middle school gym. Pretty much everything else is done. I believe they're actually starting on the auditorium today, definitely tomorrow. So they're estimating 3 days on the auditorium, 3 days on the gym. But those are still fairly large sections of roof. So once that material is all used up, you're going to see the parking lot get cleaned up a lot in terms of we're going to try to isolate it all to one section.
Thanks, Scott.
All right, thank you.
Moving on to Meredith with a professional development report.
All right. So welcome back, everybody. I know that we're excited for the year ahead and lots of great things happening. Over the summer, we have been able to engage in a number of professional development and professional learning pursuits. So I will envelop some of that into this presentation, but this is really kind of a continuation from a discussion that we started last year. So the overview is that in order to accept Title IIA professional development funds, we are required to do an annual professional development needs assessment. And we're able to achieve that a couple different ways. So one of the things that we did is we developed a district-wide assessment tool, and then the professional development committee was able to disaggregate the findings from that and then work to come up with a plan for this upcoming year, making sure that administrators have the opportunity to help manage what they're doing in their schools. So you can see the little layout. In April, we developed the needs assessment. We had 109 respondents throughout the district. And then in late May, we disaggregated that. And over the summer, the building and district level administration was able to look at that. So from the district level, we decided that we would go through and look at each building. And so we decided to look at the high school first. And according to high school teachers, their number one request was to continue with technology integration and then new and effective instructional strategies. Content-specific PD, so that would be if you're a math teacher, you want more training with math. If you are an English language arts teacher, you might want more training in informational text or narrative writing. And then social emotional learning, supporting students with learning differences, UDL, which stands for universal design, so that's being able to craft your classroom to meet all kinds of learners, and then project-based learning. And you can see that I have 3 kind of different colors here, and that's because number 7, project-based learning, can be tethered with technology integration and new and effective instructional strategies. It doesn't have to be, but there's a natural marriage there. And same thing with 4, 5, and 6. So social emotional learning, supporting students with learning differences, and universal design. There's definitely some cross-pollination in terms of what those areas are looking at. At the elementary school, the number 1 request was for social emotional learning, and then tech integration, project-based learning, executive functioning, supporting students with learning differences, again, the universal design piece, 21st century learning skills, and then lastly, content area writing. So that would be having the opportunity to write like a scientist if you're in a science class, or writing like a historian if you're studying history. So after we went through and disaggregated that, we revisited the state's standards for high-quality professional development, which are listed here for you. But for our viewing public, the idea is that rather than having one isolated professional development opportunity, as I spoke about a couple months ago to this group, the idea is that it's job embedded, it's ongoing, it helps advance the educator's ability to apply these learnings, and that it is coherent and connected. And as you know from the educator evaluation system and the rubric, teachers are able to go through a self-assessment process, identify SMART goals, and oftentimes they align with these aspects of professional development, which is a nice alignment when all those cogs get together. So moving on to the next slide, in terms of that alignment at the district level and building level, we really look at that input, which would be the yellow circle here. And then we look at whatever data we're able to glean. It's hard right now because MCAS is in a state of flux. We know last year was the first year doing next generation MCAS, and there was a limit in terms of what results were provided. And then lastly, the educational blueprint that Scott has worked with teachers on and with building and district administrators on. And the idea is to find that sweet spot in the center. So the nexus of where those three areas come together and able to leverage the best professional development. So if you look at these top priorities, we then went through and worked at a building level to try to figure out, with the few professional development days that we have in the calendar, how we would address this long list of requests. So right now, and this is kind of tentative because I know today, middle high school administrators and department chairs and Scott and I were all talking about the PD plan for the middle high school, so this is tentative, subject to change. But looking at the teacher input in terms of what they were requesting, this is our plan for the year ahead. And the three blue bands, October, November, and January, are full professional development days, and the other four are half days. So students come, they take classes in the morning, and then they go home, and in the afternoon, teachers are able to get about 2.5 hours of professional development. So in September, at the elementary school and in the middle high school alike, it's an opportunity for teachers to work on their annual educator plan, to consult with their primary and secondary evaluators, and to develop their SMART goals. In October at the elementary, they're going to focus on school-wide training around executive functioning and social emotional learning, and Ruby successfully has secured the presenter for that, which is great. We're excited about that piece. And at the middle high school, they're going to be working on a multi-year project on formative assessment of student progress, and how to measure that in terms of objectives. In November at the elementary school, we'll be carrying on kind of a multi-year experience where teachers select one of 4 areas that they're interested in, and then they have the opportunity to revisit that in the half day in December and the half day in February, so that their learning continues throughout the year. And again, it's not kind of an isolated hodgepodge. So STEAM stands for science, technology, engineering, art, and mathematics. SEL would be the social emotional learning. UDL is the universal design piece, and then we've added a data component based on teacher request. And so teachers will self-select which strand they want, and then they'll stick with that strand in November, December, and February. At the middle high school, they'll continue with formative assessments in November, and then in December, work with technology integration as we continue to move forward in our one-to-one deployment plan. And then in January, by our current contract, teachers have the opportunity to choose what they're going to do, and there's specifics about what type of activities they can engage in, as well as they're welcome to sign up for different offerings from the district and school level. In February, the middle high school, is going to be working on their NEASC experiences. And then in April, teachers will be working on their evidence for the educator evaluation system. And then additionally, I wanted to just share some of the kind of extra things that we'll be doing outside of the professional development calendar. Some of these happened earlier in the summer. Some happened I guess tomorrow and later on in the summer and then summer throughout the school year. So number one is social emotional learning. We talked about that piece. And so tomorrow teachers at the elementary level are able to volunteer to go in and learn about the calm classroom and reducing anxiety in the classroom, as well as the opportunity to learn about the first 6 weeks, which is number 4. So those two experiences will exist tomorrow. I'll be running a tech integration and project-based learning opportunity for teachers called Leader Learner for anyone that wants to sign up for that at the elementary level as we get ready to move into the new tech enhanced elementary school. And then we also covered project-based learning in the Science Institute that we held in June, which had over 25 attendees, and it was all about implementing the new science frameworks. And then in terms of supporting students with learning differences, again, calm classroom and reducing anxiety in the classroom. And I forgot to mention, reducing anxiety in the classroom is actually something we're not hosting, but we've sent a group to, and that meets today and tomorrow. That's in Silver Lake with a specialist who several of us have gone to professional development by her before. Number 6 is the whole universal design for learning. We had some folks attend the CAST summer conference. CAST is kind of the godfather of UDL, if you will. And then an RBT class called High Expectations Learning. And then the last request was the 21st Century Learning Skills, which have been peppered throughout the Science Institute as well as the plan for Leader Learner this year. And I don't know what number 8 is. It's empty. So we'll have to fill it in as the year progresses. So with that said, that's kind of the end of the formal presentation, but I'm open to any questions that you might have.
Social emotional learning, is that seen as an issue in elementary schools across the board? Is that commonly a number 1 across the board, or is that something that is different to Carver based on other places?
I don't have the statistics for other districts, but I can tell you that it's enough of a concern, not even just in the Commonwealth, but around the country, that more and more attention is being given to that. So as the pendulum kind of moves back and forth in education, there was definitely a push maybe 10 years ago with the introduction of No Child Left Behind in 2001 to really focus on standards-based education and really focus on content. Are we teaching the content? Are we assessing the content? That sort of thing. And social emotional learning is now a huge driving force, in so much that the Massachusetts Superintendent's Organization focused their entire summer conference around it. And the notion is that there's research that says for every $1 you invest in social emotional learning professional development in schools, it accounts for or saves us $11 in terms of big kind of societal issues that the Commonwealth is dealing with. So we know that over $6 billion alone is spent on substance abuse, and a strong prophylactic to that is social emotional health and social emotional learning at a young age level. So it covers a huge umbrella of opportunities. Oftentimes we think about it in terms of anxiety and depression, but it extends further into that, into making healthy choices, taking healthy risks as opposed to engaging in risky behaviors, being able to accept feedback, and being able to integrate that feedback into your work, whether it be schoolwork or whether it's coaching on a field, that sort of thing. So it's really the whole child approach, and I would say that that's been a big push nationally.
Thanks.
I'd say also, Andrew, it's an interesting question, because if I'm correct, there are state requirements for district with social emotional standards now.
Mm-hmm.
So districts have requirements from the state to meet social emotional standards. But it's an interesting question to keep an eye on, because the way they collect data and the way they gather the information is going to be an interesting progression of how they're getting it, what it really means, and how they're using it to apply it to the districts too. Is something to keep an eye on, because it is something new, and the requirements, can be, it's new. So how they're going to roll it out and what they're going to do with it is something to definitely pay attention to, I think.
To give you a little bit of feedback on that piece as well, I know sometimes you're very aware of the advocacy that we do here with our local senators in that piece, but our superintendent's organization also does a lot in terms of collaborating with the Department of Ed and the Board of Education. And there was kind of this rumor probably about 14 months ago that social emotional learning was going to be measured and reported out on in terms of data collection. And so the South Shore superintendents got together and helped advocate and work with the greater organization that we belong to. And they worked with the Board of Education and Department of Education and said, rather than spending money on a measurement tool or following in the footsteps of places like California and that sort of thing, what we really need are accessible resources that we don't have to pay for, that are research-based and evidence-based and really pay off in terms of supporting the whole child.
But they did collect data on the last MCAS with a questionnaire. that
We
they
knew,
put out.
yeah.
So there is data being collected, and what they're doing with that and how they're applying that should be paid attention to, I think. And we've had discussions about
Yeah.
that, because that's my point, is it's being unrolled at that state level that isn't necessarily monitored as well as it should be in each district. And what they're gonna do with that information is.
And the MCAS questionnaire was said as a student survey. It wasn't necessarily focused on the fact that some of the questions were clearly geared at measuring students' social emotional learning.
And they were also connected to that student because it was done within the same book that they took their test in. So
Correct.
now it has the student's name on it and the teacher's name on it as that data is collected by the state. So regardless of what they end up doing with it, that's how it rolled out the first time through. So I think paying attention to how they're going to collect that data and what they're going to do with it is something that it's a very good question, man. Because it is new, what they're doing with it. Although social emotional awareness is not new, the state monitoring it and sort of tracking it is something that is new. And I think how that unrolls is something to definitely pay attention to.
Yeah, and it hasn't been formally established how that's going to be done through the accountability system.
Right.
That's still being discussed.
Yeah.
So as that new accountability system is established, we'll be giving you information on it once it's approved by DESE, and we'll be discussing this further.
So, but I think to your question, it's something that is a general push everywhere.
Yeah, I think, as Meredith pointed out, the fact that the superintendents chose it as the focus of their summer retreat shows that it's an issue that's burning across Massachusetts.
Well, and I think if you watch the news, it's nationwide right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a main focus right now. Anything else on that? Thank you. I'm sorry, go
I
ahead.
was just going to say, any other questions?
I'm good.
All right. So moving on, opening day ceremonies.
Just wanted to formally invite you to our opening day ceremony. So opening day for teachers is planned on Monday, August 28th, 8 o'clock. We'll begin with a breakfast for all staff in the cafeteria. Then we'll move to the auditorium for opening day presentations from the administration and the APC. James is going to speak, so he'll be there as well. And the committee members are invited to come. Generally, we'll be done, I would think, the latest at 10 o'clock to be safe. And I'm not going to tell you anything more specific about what's going to happen on opening day, because some of it's a surprise. We don't want to give away the surprises. So it's just, you don't have to RSVP. We just wanted us to extend the open invitation to all the members of the committee. If you're there, we'll recognize you as members of the committee, and we'll go from there.
Thanks.
So next, a topic that Walter sort of touched on, naming the new elementary school.
So in your packets is the policy for the school committee policy for naming of a new building. So it's time for us to begin those formal discussions of what we're going to name the new elementary school. In essence, the policy states that the superintendent will prepare a procedure for the committee to adopt to name and recommend a name or names to the school building committee. So in essence, it's this committee's job to come up with a name or a list of names to bring to the school building committee for final approval. And then the school building committee would make the vote on the name of the new school. The policy states that the superintendent should seek input from students, the community, and staff in the naming of the facility. So my goal is to create a survey to be shared with community teachers and staff and students to generate suggestions for names. For me to bring those names back to the committee, and I'd like to do this as soon as possible. I'd like to begin this process next week, and with the goal of bringing some names back to our September meeting and then having this committee look at the names that are being suggested, and then make a determination on what names they'd like to move forward to the school building committee. And that's why we're talking about having a school building committee meeting in September or early October to try to finalize the name.
Well, I remember a few meetings ago, the architect said that it wasn't like on the top of the list, but it was something that we need to
Yeah,
get
it's becoming
to.
more pressing.
Yeah.
So we really, from a timeline, they'd really like to see us have a formal name adopted by October.
What's the best way to get the community involved?
The internet.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, my goal is I'm going to generate a survey and then try to put that survey out as in many forms as I can.
Okay.
So whether obviously through the school websites, also I'm going to try to put it up to the town website, put it on through social media. I have a Twitter account, put the survey that's, and my goal is to use my Twitter account more actively this year. So to put the survey out through Twitter, to have, maybe we'll talk to Kathy about getting something in the paper with a link to the survey in terms of generating.
The opening day,
response.
the
And then-
that initial paperwork.
And then obviously.
Is that what you're saying? That like first day kind of paperwork?
No, not in the first day that goes out to parents.
Yeah.
I'm saying I'm gonna get parents.
Yeah.
I mean, I can get parents either through the Twitter page, through Facebook, through the school website, through Jupiter Grades. I can send an email with a link to the survey to every parent in grades 6 through 12.
Right.
And that's most likely where they're gonna jump on that link and take the survey. Elementary parents, we don't have that as much of a direct connection, but we'll have to advertise it through there where they can access the survey
Well, but
through
what
the
if-
school website.
What if
We
in
could,
that,
I mean,
that
Ruben-
first couple of days, just send home a sheet that says, this
Here's
is
the
the
survey,
link.
to the
Just
survey.
the
Yep.
link to the survey.
We can do that at the elementary school,
With
put that
also
in
those
backpacks.
opening day papers.
I was more talking about the Carver Reporter in terms of the community beyond the school.
Yep.
I'm not as concerned about reaching the school community.
Yep.
My concern is reaching the community beyond the school and getting
Yep.
people's input, the town's input on what they'd like to see the name be. So really, that's my intent. I mean, I'll do the will of the committee. My intention was not to have a community forum or to have a public meeting to discuss the name. I feel like the survey is the best way to do that in terms of just generating what people, and then bringing forward the information in the survey to the committee to go through and take some suggestions for the name. I mean, in my mind, the next step beyond doing the survey piece would be doing some sort of community forum, doing some sort of an open night where we invite people to come and weigh in. But I feel like that can be achieved just as successfully through a survey, as long as the community knows how to access the survey.
That's the big thing.
And I think you'll get a bigger input from a survey than holding a community forum.
Oh, I agree.
Um,
Yeah. But if somebody, even something small, I mean, somebody wants to come
Someone
in and
can
do a
call me.
suggestion box.
Absolutely.
and you
If they
just
want
have
to,
it
if they want to call the superintendent's office and say, this is what I think the name should be, they certainly can do that. Anybody who's listening out there tonight, if they want to reach out and give us any information on what they think the name should be, feel free to do that.
Mr. Dunn, if you have any suggestions also, maybe the way to expand that
I'll definitely
that
make
idea
sure
out.
it's to the town website,
Yeah,
and we will be sure to mention it via our next meeting on September 5th. So during selectmen notes, we'll mention that then that the surveys are out. Here's how to get a hold of it, and really encourage people to go ahead and provide their input, because this is going to be the first chance the community as a whole gets a chance to express themselves as to what they think the name of the school should be.
sure. I think there should be sort of a set end date of when the survey would be posted, so that people know to do it
Yeah,
by.
so I have not developed the survey yet, and
Yeah.
it's not going to be a very difficult survey to develop.
Right.
So I think I'll have the survey developed by the end of this week. And my thought, like I said, my goal is to bring the survey information back to our next meeting.
Mhm.
And our next meeting is scheduled for September 11th. So it would be open for a couple weeks and really making a push to get that information out there and get a response to the survey.
Sure.
And bring the responses back to the committee, and then have the committee review those responses and have that be a main topic for our September meeting is the committee voting on a couple names to go forward to the building committee. And then the building committee would meet in September and vote a formal name at the end of
Mr.
September.
Chairman, I'll go ahead and work to make sure that it goes on the front page of the town website.
Excellent.
So when they bring out the town website, it'll
Be right there.
be right there.
And same
Excellent.
thing on the school's main page.
Mhm.
As I said, we'll reach out to Kathy and the Carver Reporter to hopefully get a story and the link to the survey and the reporter for maybe not this Friday, but the Friday after.
Very nice.
If we could do that, and try to get that information out there.
Excellent.
Any other thoughts on naming of the school?
I think community input is a great first place to start. See what everybody thinks and then move forward from there.
Yeah, and obviously the policy states we need to get the staff and student input as well, so I'm going to invite all staff to take the survey. And then we'll do something at the elementary school for the students too, to have them have the opportunity to weigh in with the naming of the school.
That'd be great. That's going to be interesting.
Yeah, we might see a lot, there might be a lot of names.
Yeah.
There might be a lot of names that come forward.
Any other questions on the naming of the school, or? No? All right. So moving on to recommendations from the superintendent.
First one, Project Contemporary Competitiveness, or PCC representative. This Carver School District has been a long-time member of an organization called PCC. It's a summer enrichment program run out of Stonehill College for students in grades 8 through 11. The committee annually appoints a member to the PCC board. For the past several years, our representative has been Meredith. So I'm suggesting that the board continue that appointment of Meredith on the PCC as our PCC rep.
I'd go for a motion.
Make a motion to have Meredith be our representative for the summer enrichment program run at Stonehill College. Maybe more than that, or?
That's fine.
Take that. We'll take that. I know a lot of students who've gone through PCC and they love it. They all love it. So it's a great program. They do a really nice job.
Could you talk about it a little bit, Meredith? What it
Yes.
is?
So first off, my children don't attend Carver schools, and they're in a district that doesn't participate. So as a parent, I'm kind of envious of the opportunity. But PCC allows for students who participate to take an area of kind of concentrated focus. It's hosted at Stonehill College, and the instructors are oftentimes teachers in the member school districts that apply to run this 8-week program. And students pick their area of concentration. They're allowed to go home on the weekends, but they kind of live on campus. And so it gives that teaser or that tickler feel of this is what it's like to be on a college campus, to have that level of rigor, to have that social construct, and to have the opportunity to kind of explore both an academic side and then also just the exciting social side of being in a dormitory. So they also obviously have, like, dorm, not parents, but people that definitely oversee the students 24/7. But it's a great opportunity. We do have some teachers in Carver who participate in that experience. But examples of areas of concentration, they've done everything from aviation or rocketry to things that are more art-based to history. So depending on where a child's proclivities lie, there are oftentimes the opportunity to be involved with that. And they need to be recommended from the school district because it's not available to everybody, but it does give an opportunity to extend learning beyond the school year.
That's great. Did we have members do it this
I
summer?
believe we had 5 students attend this past year. It's varied from year to year, and this discussion is going to come up at a different time, not necessarily speaking about our involvement in PCC and the financial aspects of it. But it varies. I know when I was middle school assistant principal, we had 25 students, 30 students attend PCC. We've had years, I think 2 years ago, there was only 1 or 2. So our participation varies from year to year, and I believe this summer it was 5.
Any other questions, comments?
Is it going to come up in discussion again tonight, the
No,
price tag
no,
associated? Okay,
no.
so is it free to students? Is there a fee
No,
associated?
there's
No,
a fee.
so I think the financial discussion is going to have to come as we look at our budget situations for next year.
Okay.
Ultimately, being a member district is maybe not all that it's cracked up to be, but that wasn't our intention for tonight's discussion to go through the detailed analysis of our participation in PCC. We just have to do a representative. But at this time, it's your reduction in cost to participate is only $150.
Okay.
So if you can attend, Meredith, as a non-member district for $150 more. So for us participating, it's a reduction in cost for our students of $150. So you have to start looking at the financial impact of that, of how much we pay, because we pay to participate as a district. It's in our current budget. It was budgeted for last year. But if we only had 5 students attend, that means it saved our students $750. And how much money did we spend to save our students $750? Brad knows that number. Brad, what's the membership fee?
I think it's roughly 1,800.
Yeah, so this past year we spent $1,800 to save our students $750. So that's something we're gonna have to look at going forward. In essence, your break-even point is around, if you do the math right, 12, 13 students. So if you have 13 students attend, then you're breaking even. If you have more than 13 students attend, that's great. Then but this past year and the year before that, we only had 1 student attend. So we paid $1,800 to save $150 for 1 student. So that's something we're going to have to consider going forward. And I think it's not that this is promoted. It's not that the school doesn't promote it. It's actually promoted mostly. Historically, we've had a lot of 8th and 9th graders attend PCC, but the total $2,300 for the summer, Brad.
Okay, that's what I figured.
Because I say, so our goal wasn't to go through all the financials of it, but since
Right,
we've got it into the discussion, we're there a little bit. So we don't have the numbers in front of us, but it's approximately.
I think it's 2,300, then 2,150 if you're a member.
So I think our enrollment is down because $2,300 for a summer program is an expensive chunk for a parent within the community to take on. So it's not that we're not promoting the program and not trying to have students involved. It's just people making the choice to not pay the $2,300 to participate in PCC. So that we were planning on bringing that up. Honestly, probably as part of our budget discussion of as we get into next year's budget. It was budgeted for this year. As we get into next year's budget, maybe that's something we need to look at is what's our cost benefit analysis on participating in PCC. But then you also go when you know that students, even if we're a non-member district, they can still go. It's not that by us pulling out Carver students will no longer be able to participate in PCC. They can, just for $150 more. But we'll cross that when we get into our budget discussion.
Thank you.
Yep.
Excuse me,
Any other
Mr. Chair,
questions?
can I
We-
just revisit that?
Shh,
Did
shh.
Mr. Solowater make-
We have not voted yet.
Did we have a motion? and
We had a
second?
motion and a second. Yep.
Yes.
And Stephanie seconded.
Thank
Yep. Yep. Any other questions, comments, anything on that? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
It's unanimous.
Congratulations, Meredith.
Thank you very much.
Request to recycle technology equipment. We didn't put Meredith's name next to this, but we'll ask Meredith to talk about the recycling of technology equipment they want to back.
Yes, so driven by school board policy, anytime that we have technology that is antiquated, broken, dead, needs to be recycled, that sort of thing, we bring it to vote to school committee, and under the policy we provide a listing for you. So as you can see from this, it lists the year purchased, what the item is, a brief description, and then the quantity of what is there. So typically these are all non-functional and they can't be fixed, or it is inefficient to try to resurrect them or reconstitute them. So I'm just looking for A, any questions, and B, other than that, just ratification that we can recycle these.
I take a motion.
Make a motion to vote on recycling technology equipment.
Second.
Pick either one of them.
That's fine.
Motion made and seconded. Any questions? Anything from Meredith at all? No? All those in favor? Aye. It's unanimous. Moving on to Brad and the
Yeah,
budget transfers.
One more quick thing back to the PCC. I have the email. So we had 7 students in 2014, 6 students in 2015, 1 student in 2016, and 5 students this current summer. The full rate for someone who's not a member is $25.20, which is $150 more than an in-district student, which we get through our membership. But I don't have that membership cost in front of me, but we'll discuss that more once the budget season comes. FY17, let's see here. Closed out the year. This is the crazy time of year for me, honestly. I'm closing out FY17, working on FY18, and developing FY19. So with this final budget transfers, this will allow me to close out the end of year report on that. A lot of minor cleanups, nothing major. Some of the key ones, though, I'll go over is a few of the teacher salaries and secretarial salaries. We had unpaid leaves to close out the year. One big one, teacher subs. Our budget was $205,000. We ended up spending $176,000. That was based on no major illness. That can swing a pretty sizable amount at any given time. So we did have a $29,000 savings on that line, which helped out in other lines, which I'll get to. District-wide PD. For internal seminar and training, we saved $5,000, and then tuition reimbursements for teachers, we actually overspent by $5,000, so that was a wash on that side. A code that we have, it's called volunteer supplies, is actually all of our copiers run off that line. I gotta change the name on that account. We actually saved $4,300 on that account, and I think this is really geared towards a lot of the less printing materials and the one-on-one initiative. So we saved a lot on toner, ink cartridges. So one thing I wasn't able to track this year was, I know, James, you've asked a couple times about the savings on actual paper. 2 years ago, we actually ordered a ton of paper, so there really wasn't much ordering this year, so you couldn't really gauge on how much we actually saved. But I will say we didn't even need to do a massive order this current year because we had still so many saved. So that's one positive for the one-on-one initiative. Couple sped changes you'll see, minor, just based on IEP changes in terms of what we spent on sped testing, needs assessment, and then also tuitions. Bus driver salaries, kind of, we saved on special ed, we overspent on regular K through 12, was an even wash. One major thing that I know I've hit on a couple times is our out-of-district sped contracted service line. So this year, we spent $210,000 in out-of-district transportation that was contracted out. A big factor of this, I know I mentioned before, was a tuition that we had, a school choice student that we get reimbursed for. So that did inflate it quite a bit. But at the same time, that's still a big number to carry in your budget. One thing we're looking at doing is flexing a little bit of start times in terms of our out-of-district placements, that if we can flex a student to arrive 10 minutes later, we can put 2 on one van instead of having 2 separate vans going. It gets a little tricky with IEPs. You have to really meet certain criteria. But on routes that we can do that and still meet our time requirements, obviously 2 for 1 is better than 1 paying each one separate. So that's what we're looking for. I think this year, currently in FY18 budget, you'll see next, I think we had $130,000 up to in that contracted line. So obviously any savings we have, we'll probably try to kick into that as we go forward. But that can change on any given year. I know homeless we get tracked as well. That feeds into this account. So that line item ended up at $210,000, which is a pretty big dollar amount for just special ed contracted services.
And then we have 130 for FY18?
Correct. One thing I will say that this budget in FY17 didn't take impact is when you have that school choice student, you actually get the money back the following year. So that will be in our budget to offset. But at the same time, it's still, even if you take 50 grand off 210, you're still looking at a pretty sizable number that we don't have fully covered right now. But it's crazy. I look back at previous years on this, and we've actually spent, there was one year we spent nothing on sped contracted service because we were able to handle everything internally. So this is one of the special ed accounts that is always going to be in play year to year, that you really don't know which way it's going to go.
So then will you increase that for FY19?
We'll look at the enrollment we have out and then make that determination. Yep. It's all based on caseload, and I mean, sometimes, IEPs and out-of-district placements change all the time. Obviously, if we have 5 kids going to 1, it's cheaper because we can have 1 van go.
Yep.
But sometimes they break out and they go an hour away. An hour is really the threshold that you want a student on the van. So if you can't really put 2 together because then you're breaking the hour limit.
Yep.
So it gets difficult on that. And Carver really is in a tough location too because a lot of the districts are pretty north of us. So you're hitting right around the 45 to an hour threshold for every student already. Just based on the placements that we have. I know they go all over, but usually they're north of here.
So Brett, I have a request for you, man.
Yep.
As we go through these, as you went through, you pointed out particular topics as we went through the list. I would request that either somehow you give us the line number of those, or like highlight them to point those out so as you're talking about them, we can find them easier through what you're saying, because trying to keep up with what you're saying and find them on this list isn't happening.
I can color code them.
So, I mean, we looked through the list, but you seem to focus specifically on certain items. So if you have ones that you want us to really look at, maybe if you could either single those numbers out or highlight them or something for us.
Sure. No problem. And then continuing for FY17, really no other major changes. One thing I will say that we did close out our books with, we didn't have to bite into that much circuit breaker. So circuit breaker, I'm carrying over 75,000, which is better than the 45 that we originally estimated. A key component of that is usually they break it down, they give you quarterly payments. The fourth quarter is always a little bit higher because they save X amount of dollars for extraordinary relief for circuit breaker. If that money's not used, they kick it back into the whole reimbursement. So your fourth quarter payment is always a couple $1,000s over what the previous 3 were. So I don't have the exact number, but we did finish at 75,000 on our books for an end of year. The goal for that, though, account remember, is to have 350 to 400,000 in, so we have a full year's to the good, just in case mid-year move-ins happen. That's the money we can assess and not cut staff or look at other budget cuts. School choice numbers also, that came in, we finished the year with 84,000 on school choice. So that's another number that's a little bit higher than what we anticipated. We didn't have to actually offset our actual budget diving more into school choice funds.
What about that contingency fund that we established at town meeting and all that? There was talk that you were gonna have to go into that sum. Did that end up happening?
Yep,
or-
nope, so that's for FY18. All those
Okay.
accounts are set up for FY18.
Okay.
Yep, yep. And the goal will be to continue to build up our internal, I call them reserve funds, even though they're not reserve funds. I don't want that to get miscategorized. But that's our backup. That's our backup for mid-year move-ins and things that unforeseen costs that happen. I mean, a special ed student can move in and cost you $200,000. And without that money in these reserve accounts, then you have to cut that year's budget by $200,000. There's nowhere to get it. So building these back up will help us reduce those mid-year cuts if they come into play. So that was all I had for FY17. If you guys have any specific count questions, feel free to go ahead. But I will color code them next time, just so I put the note section on there, but I'll color code them just so I go through my main highlight ones.
Okay. I'll make a motion to approve the FY17 final budget transfers.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any questions? That was Stephanie.
No.
No? Seeing none? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
It's unanimous?
On to FY18. So for the, I'll just give you the account codes as we go through. So this account code is 01.
Might be, oh, you don't have the line.
You don't have the lines on your,
Pull it up on Drive.
Oh, yeah, I can do that.
Help you pull the Drive, it'll give you the
Yeah,
line,
I
so
can
you
do
can
that
say
for you.
line 12.
Guess I'm forced to use Drive now. My favorite thing, but.
not a Google fan either, man.
So
When we
this
leave you,
is-
no other option.
This is line 19, support salaries for tech. What this is you'll see a $25,000 transfer request. This is taking the money we had set aside for our network manager account that we had contracted out and moving it into that salary line that we now are charging Stephen's salary to. You'll also see the town did a major transfer over from one of their accounts to cover his salary also, because his salary's gonna run out of our budget.
Right.
But their money from their side has already been put into our account. Next one. Quickly, I'll go over graduation, which is line 49. So on 49, if you look, I know it's a small number, we're already over $292. One thing with this that I don't want, you're gonna see this number grow. What we're gonna do is the money we receive for parking is actually gonna be deposited as an offset to this account. So that's where graduation money, I know some students are gonna say, why am I getting charged $50 this year instead of 10? That money's actually getting kicked right into offsetting graduation expenses. So that was kind of, I thought, of a unique way to use it, because I know sometimes people question where funds go. This is going directly to graduation expenses to offset that. The next one you'll see are two $6,000 transfers. They are in line 55 and 56. This was for horizontal movement. I know when we passed this budget, I told you guys I didn't have any money actually budgeted for horizontal movement. We were able to utilize a savings from one of our agricultural schools. One student actually dropped from going to the program, so it was roughly, I think, 21,000. You'll see it at the end of the one of the future transfers. I was able to take that money, split it out in between accounts, and that's how we were able to fund some of these. So that is a cost that is now covered. Obviously, it might be a little bit more than 6,000, but last year we had 20 people actually that moved on the horizontal movement. But it's a start. It's a start that we
Right.
are budgeting a little bit more in there. Line 80 and 81. You'll see teacher long-term subs and teacher short-term subs. So this is a new account we created for the long-term subs. DESE has made a lot of changes in terms of how they want accounting for certain things, and this is one item they want to highlight to track how much school districts are actually spending on long-term subs. So this account code you'll see is new. I'm asking just to put 39999 in it. It's just transferred out of the original sub budget. There's really no change in actual subs because generally in the past, we've always labeled them under just general subs. This is just breaking it out. So there's really no net impact of having the new account code. It's just a matter of how we actually label them when we process the payment for them.
They give you any reason, Brad, for?
Yeah, the state's actually, they're doing a good job on trying to match SIMS reporting to the end of year report. So what it is they're trying to get a good accounting system of how much districts are actually spending on long-term subs and short-term subs. The big thing is they want to label the long-term subs for teachers specifically as what an actual total cost dollar amount is spent on teachers. In previous, a lot of districts label like paraprofessionals, they actually just throw them into that one subline. Now they're breaking it out so you have an actual true cost of where everyone is categorized.
Okay.
District-wide tuition reimbursement is line 92. That's based on last year's spending. That's $5,000 that we're able to kick back into that line from the agricultural school savings. So last year we finished roughly just over 40,000. This will now bring that number up to 40,000 in our FY18 budget. Next one is line 147. This is just the district-wide instructional software services. This is the 25,000 that we're taking from the contracted services and just putting it into the support salaries. Small one is 177. We're looking to take out $1,307 from agricultural transportation line. We've been able to hook up with Bristol, our Bristol Agricultural School. We're actually hooking up with Plymouth on. So they're going to pick our students up in Carver, and they're actually going to transport them to Bristol. So it's not something we have to run, and I think the cost to us is going to be minimal. It's going to be like roughly $5,000 to $6,000 compared to the 10 to 15 that it would cost us internally. So that was a nice savings right there as well. And the final one is just the agricultural school one, which is line 240. Yep, 247, yep. That's just the student that moved out. So that was actually a savings of $22,139 that we were able to put into horizontal movement and the district-wide tuitions, district-wide PD reimbursement. And that is FY18. One thing I will note, and what we're working on, is we're working on consolidating. As you go through, like a lot of these accounts, you'll see there's a split between middle high school and high school. When I do my end-of-year report, they actually don't break it out in that term. They just label it all as the one school. So we're actually going to go through, and I guess I should really ask you guys first if this is what you want, because we haven't done it yet. But are you in favor of having it all labeled under one middle high school line item rather than splitting it out, or do you like having it split out? There's really no reason to have it split personally. You're kind of looking at the same numbers for middle high school art and art at the high school. There's really no need to have them separated. Same thing for all the individual subjects. Right now, like for middle school, we have everyone labeled in, whether you're a science teacher, English teacher, whatever subject you may teach, are labeled under a middle high school account. What I want to do is I want to break those out and label them under the correct subject area that they teach for the entire school. Doesn't change my end of year reporting at all. It's just a matter of having it labeled for you guys.
So if they're not separated now, why,
They are separated now.
they are
in our
separated? So you're
accounting
asking to consolidate them?
Correct.
So a little background on that is obviously the middle school and the high school were separate buildings, separate administration, separate principals. At that time, they were, according to DESI, at that time the school district had 4 schools. We had a primary school, an elementary school, a middle school, and a high school. And that's how we reported ourselves to DESI. 2007, 8, the elementary schools consolidated first. And then the middle high school consolidated in 2009. The DESI really views them as 2 schools. But from an accounting standpoint, they've kind of stayed separate. And what happened was the elementary school, I think, has already brought everything
It's
together.
one. Yep, it's one.
And in the middle high school, all the building-based items came together, but the teaching staff didn't. So if you go through the budget, you'll see high school art teacher, middle school art teacher. And why not? Brad's just saying, can we just call it middle high school art teachers?
So it's just an efficiency thing. It doesn't
Absolutely.
change
Doesn't
anything.
change the budget, doesn't
No,
change anything.
it will be.
It's covered.
It's going to be rough.
Can't
though.
report it out that way to DESI because the DESI views us as having 2
I'm
schools.
all for
and
efficiency,
Yeah.
man, so.
All
we
right.
view ourselves as having 2 schools.
The only difficulty we're going to have, and I can make the change on this, is when we go forward in terms of looking at history. I asked if they can migrate the old accounts into the new accounts. They can't. Don't ask me why. Just it's our software system. So what's going to happen is when you look back at let's say we use FY17 data for comparison to FY18 and 19.
It'll be all different.
It's going to be all different. I can label them together. I can throw them in there. Overall, the bottom line's not going to change at all. It's just a matter of how the accounting system looks for when you make the line-by-line comparison. One's going to be $1 million
Right.
compared over what it was the previous year. But going forward, I mean, it makes sense efficiency-wise. It's just one bubble year, and then you're over it the following.
I would see no reason why not.
No, I wouldn't either.
Okay.
But it's not something, do we have to vote on it?
No,
No, I
not
think
at
you just
all.
have
I
to
was
vote
looking
on
for
the
your
budget.
input.
You just vote on the budget transfers.
All right, so I'll make a motion to approve the FY18 budget transfers.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any questions, comments? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. It's unanimous?
School lunch increase, and this is also Brad's going to take us to that. So Brad has the rest of the agenda, really.
We're running it. We're trying to be quick here. School lunch increase. So we're requesting a 10-cent increase in both the middle high school and elementary school breakfast and lunch. That would bring the middle high school breakfast to $1.75 and their lunch to $2.75. It would bring the elementary school breakfast to $1.75 and lunch to $2.50. We did a massive search of every other district in our region, and everyone is, honestly, these numbers put us still in the middle of the pack. We're not above, we're not below, we're right at the middle of the pack. A lot of districts, not a lot, I shouldn't say, there's a couple districts in our area that are now getting free breakfast for some and free lunch for some, based on their free and reduced need. We're still really not even close to that threshold, but that's something that as we go further and we have seen an increase in free and reduced, it may come into play at some point if they drop the requirement, but at this time, we're not really in the bubble to be looked at for.
I don't know if I can remember exactly, but I think it's almost every year we tend to hit like a 10-cent increase lately.
Our last
For
one was
quite a
in
while.
2015.
Was the last increase?
The last time the committee increased lunch prices was 2 years ago.
And that was 10
So
cents.
last year we didn't do it, but 2 years ago we did do 10 cents.
Yeah, and what this does too is, one, I know we actually finished this year, and I want to say a real thank you to our cafeteria staff and Kath Farrar for really looking at budgets and cutting out, eliminating waste of material that food that we actually didn't need to serve. We finished the year with a $7,000 balance compared to I think a
That's
$12,000 or
great.
$14,000 shortfall we had in the previous year. So things are getting on track in terms of the food service department. Also, one thing that happens is every year the free and reduced rates, the reimbursements rates go up. And what they want you to do is there can't be a huge gap between the free and reduced number that you get compared to what you charge, because they're saying you're subsidizing. So this increase makes sure that we're not going to hit that threshold for next year, and we may be able to go one more year without looking at
Without doing
increasing.
it.
Yep.
Sounds good.
Yep.
I would take a motion.
I'll make a motion that we increase the price of breakfast and lunch at both the middle high school and elementary school by 10 cents to to $1.75 for breakfast at both the elementary and middle high school, and to $2.50 for lunch at the elementary school, and $2.75 for lunch at the middle high school.
Motion made and seconded. Any questions? Comments? Now, these are just for the meals, right? So if they get a milk or something like that, all
It's
those
all à la
prices
carte,
stay
yeah.
the same?
Yep, it's separate. Yep,
Okay.
there was no change on that.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 It's unanimous?
Food service policy. So the USDA has required now that all school districts have a policy in place in terms of charging and prepaying accounts. So this, I believe, is a new policy, right? This wasn't updated. This is a brand new.
This is a brand new policy.
Okay. Yep. All right. And what this basically is putting what we had for internal procedures into writing in terms of putting it on the books as a policy. We really stepped up this year in terms of our letters that went out once students hit a $10 shortage on their account or deficit on their account. This just puts it in writing that an alternate meal will be served if they're 3 meals behind, and the letter will go home at $10 if they are behind as a deficit on their account. I know notices get sent home. I don't know if there's a dollar amount threshold or not in terms of you get an automatic notice when your student's account is below $10, let's say. But letters will be sent home once you have a $10 deficit on your account, and that's what this policy really puts in place. No student is ever denied a lunch. There's alternate meals that we offer. It's not as delicious as a regular lunch, let's put it that way. But it's an alternate lunch, so there's no one is never denied a lunch, let's put it that way.
And ultimately, and just kind of restating what Brad said in terms of this is not a change in practice. This is just putting our current practice into a policy because we've now been asked to have a policy about these practices. So this really is, there's no change. Nothing's different this year than it was last year in terms of our food services policies. It's just going from this was our internal practice to this is a school committee approved policy, and ultimately because we're being asked to do that. We're suggesting that, the policy subcommittee did meet and reviewed this policy, and we're asking that we waive the first reading and approve it tonight prior to the beginning of school. That's ultimately the committee's choice. The committee could say, no, this is the first reading, and bring it back in September.
Well, I'll make a motion to approve the food services policy as stated tonight.
Second.
So motion is made and seconded. That was Gina. Any questions or comments? Andy and I did meet with Brad, and we talked about this. And one of Andy's questions was, is that $10 threshold enough? And part of the discussion was, families that are generally struggling are free and reduced lunch. So most of the deficits that the lunch program sees are parents whose kids are taking more than they were expected to, or who aren't keeping up with the account. It's just a matter of acknowledging and recognizing to them that your account is deficit to catch up with it. So it's a pretty straightforward. It's what they've been doing, as they're saying. So
Yeah, and if there's a real financial hardship, then we clearly advocate for them to
Get the
apply
free
for
and
free and
reduced
reduced lunch,
anyway,
and
so
support them in doing so.
right.
One thing the state's done too now is really they've kind of taken out the whole paper process in terms of qualifying and actually requesting free and reduced. You now submit a student list with SACID IDs and social security numbers right into a direct portal, and if they come up on any state reduced or they get a state benefit, the family does, they automatically qualify for free and reduced, and you don't even have to send a form home, nothing signed, they're just automatically on it.
Kind of makes it easier for the families. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So motion was made and seconded. Any other questions, comments, anything at all? No? All those in favor? Aye. Unanimous?
So the
So we'll
motion is
adopt-
to approve it as written. We're
To
waiving
approve
the
it as
second.
written. Yep. Waive the second reading. So Brad, that was a busy ending there, huh?
It was.
All right.
It was.
Reports from the school committee. Stephanie, I know you have something you'd like to bring up, I believe.
Yes. The Carver Elementary School recently sent home letters notifying families of their students' teachers. And in those letters, there are time frames for each grade to visit the school. And during that day on Thursday, the 24th, between 12 and 4, they're having their first annual health and wellness fair in the EKW gym. There's going to be 20 different vendors set up. So if families are visiting the school, they're free to stop by and learn about local services and businesses and some projects that are going on in town that might benefit some of the families.
Fantastic.
And also, the only thing I'd add on to that is the Health and Wellness Fair is obviously open from 12 to 4, and people really could come in at any time. But because of our parking constraints, obviously, we'd recommend that families try to attend, which they probably will, try to attend the fair around the time that they're also visiting classrooms, and not visit classrooms and come back 2 hours later and attend the fair. Like I said, I would assume most people wouldn't do that, but just want to make it clear, just from a parking standpoint, that's why we've set up timetables for when we'd like different grade levels to come in and make the visits, just because everybody knows we have parking constraints over at the elementary school.
Absolutely.
I just wanted to wish families, kids, parents a great start to the year. I know we're excited about it, and I bet you are too. So to all the kids, your summer's over. To your parents, not yet. Your summer's over.
Dun, dun, dun.
But get involved in the school year. Get involved. Be heard. Parents, get involved. Just be as active as you can, because we need as many people that were willing to get involved as possible. So enjoy the start of the year.
Gina,
I'm good.
no? I just like Ruby. She's not here anymore. She's here a bit. Okay. It's going to be an emotional year, I think, at the elementary school. Some ups and downs throughout the year. A lot of firsts, a lot of lasts. So
Yeah, I think people will be, obviously people are excited for the new building, but they're
Yeah.
going to be sentimental for the old buildings in some
Happy
ways.
to see
in
it
some
go.
ways.
Yeah, happy to see it go, but I think there'll be some sentiment there to it too. So I would just like to do the same, Andrew, and wish everybody a great start to the new year, and hope everything can go as well as it can. So with that, I would accept a motion to adjourn and move to executive session to not return, I believe.
Yeah. I'll make a motion to move to executive session and to not return to open meeting tonight.
Second?
Motion made and seconded. All those in favor? Is this a roll call?
Roll call
Yep.
vote.
Just gonna look out.
Roll call vote for executive session.
Aye, yes.
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 Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.